What is up? This is another episode of the Crazy Scary Cool podcast. I am Chris. Thank you all for listening today. So today I'm gonna be talking about a film that came out on Shudder about a month ago. VHS 85. This movie is streaming on Shudder. I want to say it's been out for about a month now. Um, so yeah, go watch it. It's a pretty decent film. So I am gonna be spoiling this. So I'm just gonna dive right in. I would say that this is I would say that it's above average, but I wouldn't go as far to say that this is a good film. I think that horror anthologies are very tricky to make. For me, I think the best ones are Tales from the Hood, Creep Show, and then I would say Tales from the Dark Side. But I watch a lot of horror anthologies, and I just think that they can be tricky. I think that sometimes some of the filmmakers sometimes bite off more than they can chew, and they don't always have enough time to tell the story, to adequately tell the story that they're trying to tell. I just think they run out of time. I don't think they give us enough time, not necessarily speaking about this movie, even though in some ways I do think that this movie struggles with that. But just in general, I think that anthologies are tough to make. And yeah, just don't always have enough time to get attached to the characters, to get invested in the story. Um, yeah, so I'll go ahead and get into this review. I would say, so I'll go ahead and start. I would give this movie a 2.75 out of 5. So just a little bit of background about VHS. So VHS, I want to say this is like the seventh film in its catalog. So it's building up quite a pretty decent sized catalog. Um, so of course, this is an anthology to where there are about 4 or 5 different segments. There's typically a wraparound story to where someone either comes across a VHS tape and they start to play it, and what we're seeing each segment is a different tape. So pretty basic shit. Um, is usually some crazy shit going on in the wraparound story. Some of the movies, excuse me, have better wraparound stories to where it actually feels like a movie. Some are almost segments within a segment. Um, this film 85 is one of the latter to where it's almost feels like a I guess it would be a sixth segment, I think, a fifth. I think VHS 1 and 2 did a really good job of it feeling like it was a movie, and then it was a movie within a movie. It did a really good job. With this one, it felt more like we're watching just like 5 or 6 different segments. And I guess I don't know if that's necessarily a nitpick because I actually ended up liking the wraparound story. Um, but yeah, so I'll go ahead and get into 85. Let me start by saying so I like 99 a lot better than 85. I think that every segment is good. I mean 99 was actually pretty fire actually, and is one of the best films in the VHS franchise. 94, I initially, maybe because I think the trailer was like so exciting, um that it just had really high expectations for the film. But I actually might like 94 better than 85 too. Initially, I was kind of low on it, but 85 is not bad by any stretch. So again, so I'm gonna be spoiling this shit. So I'll start off. So it starts off with Total Copy is the wraparound story. Um, it's very 80s. This does a really good job of, and I'll just introduce the story. Um, so it's a TV movie of where some scientists and researchers find some shit. And I'll leave it at that, and I'll finish that at the end. So the very first one is No Wake. Um, so, as an isolated story, No Wake is a huge miss. We later find out that it connects to Ambrosia, which is like the third or fourth one. But as an isolated story, No Wake misses. This is kind of bad. It's very vapid, it's very empty. Um, so, what happens is you have a group of teenagers, I'm guessing they're teenagers, or maybe early 20s. It's 7 of them. They are in an RV, they are taking a camping trip. They go up to a lake. They're having fun. They're in the lake swimming, start to drink. Yada yada yada. Regular. I'm guessing it's summertime. It looks like it because if they're in the water, so like a summer trip. Um, and an unseen assailant starts to shoot at them, and is they're fucking them up. The special effects are really good. Like their faces are getting blown off, they're getting shot. Um, so there were 7 people total. 5 of them go into the lake. Um, we come to find out that this lake is enchanted. It's got some magical properties to it. So if you touch it, drink it, it gets sprayed on you, you get resurrected. So I don't know if they died for a moment and came back, or they just can't die, but they get these horrific injuries from getting shot and they don't die. The 2 people that didn't go into the lake, they're also killed by this unseen assailant. So it's 5 people left. They come back to their RV, and there's the Roman numeral 7 is written in blood on it, and it ends. We don't know what this water is. We don't know who is deciding to kill them. We don't know any of that. And it ends. So it's pretty abrupt. We don't really know shit. So when I'm watching it, I'm thinking, okay, this is pretty trash because it was very quick. The kills were cool, but we don't know why they're being killed. We don't learn anything about the characters. I don't even know if I got their names. So it just felt very, very empty, very, very vapid. So as an isolated story, I would say it's a miss. Like I mentioned, it does connect to Ambrosia, so that does help it improve it some. But honestly, I feel like this would have been better if they just connected them together. That if, and also it would have made it a little bit more unique. That if this was like a part one and a part two, which is essentially what it was, but I would have liked it better if they just combined the segments together and said that, okay, this is one long segment. That's the first part. Second part, we see Ambrosia. Then it would have made sense, and I wouldn't have had waited a couple more segments. Or we wouldn't have to waited a couple more segments to see that it made sense. So, but I would have said that as a standalone story, that was a miss for me. Next, we have God of Death. Didn't particularly like this one that much either. It so what it happens is that you have this at a news station. Um, Reporters, camera people are getting ready for the day. Um, and out of nowhere, inexplicably, a hurricane, not a hurricane, an earthquake comes, destroys the news station. I think only one person is left. Almost immediately, a response team comes in. This felt kind of weird because at this point I got a little bit confused on, okay, is this emergency response team, like, were they already there? And I was just confused on, like, if it was the people at the news station. Just because it happened, it would be like where I'm at now, or an earthquake occurs and then like instantly, like, the emergency response team was there. Like, I just don't think that the sequencing did a good job of letting you know that these are 2 different sets of people. You have the news team who got killed, and then the response team came in immediately after. Like, the way it was sequenced, it was almost instantaneous that they were either one of the same or they were already there. So that got a little bit jumbled. So they're trying to save the people. The rubble unlocks this malevolent god of death from the Aztec era, and this so he the earthquake just unlocked him. Um, he starts possessing people, jumping from person to person, causing them to kill one another. Eventually, after they killed everyone, this god possesses them and kills everyone. Causes the last person to, I think they killed themselves, I believe. Chick just randomly gets naked, which I'm no prude, but it just felt kind of bizarre. And I guess this god wanted human sacrifices, and so him causing people to kill one another and then kill themselves is satiating that need. But one, this plot point felt similar to Evil Dead Rise. In Evil Dead Rise, I guess that's a spoiler for that. If y'all haven't seen it, Danny is during an earthquake, finds the Necronomicon in a vault that was buried, and the earthquake unburied it. So similar plot point here, and just I don't know, I just don't like that trope of malevolent god for just no reason that's given, it just starts to possess. It just felt like it didn't really feel like it had a plot. It just felt like shit was happening on screen. It was just like, okay, kill them, and like there was no rhyme or reason to it, and it just didn't really have a plot. Like, okay, like I had to go on Wikipedia and see that okay, this was a god of death, and kind of find out for myself. So we didn't know why this god is so malevolent, at least not told in the story, and it just didn't really have a plot, or not one that I was really interested in. It felt rushed. It felt very quick. It felt empty. So kind of the same with No Wake. So I wasn't really feeling this. This was, I will give it points that apparently there was an earthquake in Mexico City. I forgot to mention that this was by Mexican filmmakers. So there was an earthquake that actually happened in 1985, and so this is connecting to real life events and a fictionalized telling, retelling of what could, a telling of what could have happened. But again, I didn't like this to either. It just felt short. Again, just random acts of violence on screen. So right now it's 0 for 2. Next is going to be Techno God. So Techno God, I did enjoy. I like this. So during the 80s, Satanic Panic was definitely a thing. As technology was, so this the what this story is about is that before I get ahead of myself, um, this avant-garde performer is doing a solo performance in which she is discussing how the United States is becoming godless and that people are replacing God with technology. Technology is becoming their God. And in this performance, she is stating how she believes that the world is getting to a point to where they don't believe that they need God. And she gets these virtual reality glasses and she goes into this other dimension that looks like very, it looks like, I guess, what science fiction writers or movies would describe the inside of a computer would look like, of inside of an android. So it's very I don't even know how to describe it. It feels very techno-y. This virtual reality world that she's in. She does an incantation and she runs into this being entity in this virtual reality world while wearing these glasses, while discussing how people are making technology their god, and this being just fucks her up. Like it just rips her apart in the virtual reality world. But of course, it fucks her up in real life too, so she's killed. So this is also a short segment, but this one makes sense and it hits more because I know what it's about. Like she explains that people are becoming godless, or they're making technology their god and replacing I'm assuming the Judaic god, um and she's cautioning them of this, while at the same time doing these incantations. um I'm not sure if she really meant to conjure something, but or if it was just part of the performance, but it fit. During that time in the 80s, I was not alive during the 80s, but I've read about it. Again, with Satanic Panic, this idea that people were believing that they didn't need God anymore, or science and technology was their God. Those are real thoughts, those are real anxieties. So this does reflect sentiments of 1985. So I like that about the story. I like that it didn't drag on too long. It I don't mind a segment being short, but I need to, and not every T doesn't need to be crossed, I dotted, but gotta give me something. And I feel like this did it for me. So that was a win. I like that one. Next, Ambrosia. So this connects to No Wake. So we find out that we see who the killer is. It's a girl. I think her name is Ruth. She is a teenage girl, but we don't know that right off the bat. So we're seeing a family gathering. It could be like a summer cookout, Sunday dinner, a birthday party, but some celebration where family is there. These are just a regular family, unassuming. Um, yeah, you don't really don't think too much of it. And then the family is gathered in the living room because Ruth, obviously some sort of celebration for Ruth, but it didn't really feel like a birthday. So I wasn't really sure. At first I was thinking it was her birthday, but I was like, okay, well, she doesn't have her friends here. So I thought it was just some sort of, family gathering. But it was focused on Ruth. So come to find out, this is a family of killers who commemorate events by killing 7 people. So they have like some cult vibes, or like some family. I don't even know a spiritual. I guess family cult things, to where seven. I know in the Bible, seven is the number of completion. So they kill seven people. So Ruth had recorded it, her killing these people. So what her showing, um, so her recording is the segment of No Wake. So we see her killing them from her point of view, the seven. Unbeknownst to her, she did not realize that um, some of the people she killed were not dead. Um, so they decide to enact revenge. So she is, as she's showing the tape, she goes outside, and there is one of her younger relatives um, received a water gun, and the little boy sprays her with it. And again, unbeknownst to her, it is water. It is one of the water guns from No Wake, and she sprayed with this cursed water. So I did like this part, because I like that at this point in time we don't know that the group is enacting revenge. But it all comes together. So the little boy, she's like, "Hey, where did you get this water gun from?" And he says, "A lady in a van." So immediately, I'm thinking like, you got this little kid who could receive something from a stranger. I'm like, okay, stranger danger. Like, this is someone like evil who's trying to harm this kid. But then we see the RV pulling out. It's actually not a van, it's an RV. And we realize that, okay, now the connection is made. So I think that the story did a good job of, one, connecting No Wake to Ambrosia, and then two, like, kind of like almost, these people are enacting revenge, but it's also playing on this idea of stranger danger, that the people who we would think would give something like this to a kid, I feel like it's kind of it's averting that thought process of who those people were. So I thought that it was just a nice little misdirect, that okay, this stranger danger aspect is actually not who we really thought it was. So I like that. I like the misdirect. I like the red herrings with the family. Um, so all that was good. But this is where it loses me. Um, so I thought they were going to come in and try to kill them, but for some reason they gave the little boy this cursed water. So maybe as retribution, they wanted to curse him with immortality, the ability to resurrect. So that's a little bit like, that was a little bit clunky as to why they decided to give the water gun to a kid to curse him. Um, and I was thinking that they would come in guns a blazing, try to kill them, but for some reason they didn't. So at next, the police are called, and like a SWAT team comes out of nowhere. Like, it's just very abrupt. So I'm not sure if the filmmakers just did not want to do something cliche, like the cliche revenge trope, which that's valid, that's fair. Um, but then having the police came in instead felt very anticlimactic. Like, I wasn't really feeling that. Having them call, and then like it was just a SWAT team. Like, how does, like, who just has a SWAT team on hand? And then it's never ever it's never stated that like there was any sort of investigation into this murderous family. So it's not, we don't know if it's a thing of like where they were already being investigated. So I don't know. So it felt very rushed. And so the police come in, like, I mean, it's almost like, I mean, like an action movie. Um, there's a shootout. All the family gets killed. Ruth gets shot. But again, since she was sprayed with the water, she comes back to life, and she like immediately like she's resurrected. We think she's dead. She's resurrected. She tries to fight back, but I want to say that she's restrained, and that's the story. So I liked the premise of this, but then the decisions towards the end just lost me. I didn't like having the police. I them deciding to spray them with water, the cursed water, didn't make sense. We still don't know what the water is, but that's okay. We don't need everything explained. But I just think that this could have been a much, much, much better story if they instead focused on the teenagers from No Wake and had them actually enact revenge. I just think that those decisions were really, really clunky to me, and what could have been actually a very special story actually ended up being I enjoyed it, but it could have been so much more. Um, so that's Ambrosia. Um, and we still don't learn too much about who these teenagers are. And maybe that's the point, that we don't need to learn too much about them. Um, so yeah, and also I should mention they were able to find them. How do they find them? I think that while they were recording, one of the other teenagers recorded the license plate, and that's how they were able to find the people to begin with. So that part makes sense. Um, okay, so moving on to Dream Kill. So at this point, y'all are probably thinking, okay, I said that this was pretty good, but so far I've been pretty critical. Um, so Dreamkill might be the best segment that VHS has ever had. This was just absolutely incredible. And to be honest, I don't even want to spoil too much because I feel like it's so good that I don't want this to be spoiled. But what I will say is that this is a supernatural episode of Dateline or First 48. There are elements of a crime drama, um, hints at you think that there's like some sort of cult aspect going on. But I guess this is one spoiler. That's another misdirect. But it's like a crime drama mixed with the supernatural. Um, you're a serial killer, and there's like a mystery and a whodunit. Um, and it's just this is like one of the best stories that VHS has ever done. Probably the best. It's very violent. Um, a very strong story. There are some misdirects. Some really good acting. We get invested with the characters, and this is what I need from an anthology segment. I understand that you don't have an hour and 10 minutes, but tell a story within the allotted period of time that you're able to flesh it out. Like if you're getting to the point to where I don't really know the characters' names, I don't know their motivations, like the story is rushed, like this is what needs to be done. This is a great story. Um, is Characters aren't doing dumb things. The plot makes sense. I don't need to suspend my disbelief. This is just a really excellent story, and so good that even though I was critical of the rest of 85, this is carrying it. This carries it so much that I would say watch it just for this. Um, so those are all the segments. Now, next, coming to the wraparound story, Total Copy. So what this is about is a pretty common story to where you've had scientists who decide to play God and are just playing with something that they have no business playing with, and shit goes left. Um, so these scientists find this alien creature being named Rory, um, who is able to make copies of himself, and is expressing some, I want to say he had like telepathic abilities. So, of course, these scientists are trying to harness his power, try to understand him, and the shit goes left. With this one, it's a pretty, this isn't a story that is totally unique. We've seen something like this before, but I think it did a good job, especially as a wraparound story. It's creepy. Even though we know that shit is going to end poorly, I'm still invested in seeing it. Like the special effects with the creature was interesting to watch. I would have even liked to see more about the characters. The ones who are expressing criticisms and doubts. But I think they gave us just enough because I feel like if they would have given us even more, then that would have been taken away from the story at hand. And now we're moving into like a spinoff. So I do think they did a good balance of making some of the characters who were giving pushback of like who were saying like, hey, we really shouldn't be doing this. We saw just enough of them to care about them, but not too much to where like now the story is becoming distracted. So actually, it was a great balance. The climax of the end was fun to watch. That was cool. So ultimately, that's the end of VHS 85. Again, I would say that this is like Dream Kill makes it above average. Um, I would say that there are definitely some issues with the segments. Um, I would say, with the exception of Dreamkill, well, I'll say Dreamkill and Techno God are really solid, but Ambrosia and No Wake, I would say there are like some significant holes with their stories. Um, no Wake just needed to be longer and more fleshed out, or if they wanted to, or and like I said in the beginning, I think put No Way and Ambrosia together, that would have really hit. But even with that, in the Ambrosia, there was some storyboarding decisions that really made me scratch my head, and I'm like, I just didn't get why they made those decisions. Um, so I would say that this is definitely not as good as 99. 99 was, I would say 99 was fantastic. 94 has grown on me. It's enjoyable. Like I really enjoy the 80s. So I feel like for some reason people have like an affinity for the 90s over the 80s, but I really fuck with the 80s. The 80s were like, I love that aesthetic. I would say that it does a really good job with the 80s aesthetic. Um, I would say the only one that doesn't seem like the 80s is maybe God of Death. It I don't know, it felt like that could have been any time period. So yeah, this is a cool film. It's not gonna blow your mind away. I think that horror anthologies are tough to make. I haven't really seen one that I would say like has really impressed me. Um, that I would be like, okay, this is great. At least not one that I'm remembering off the top of my head. But I would say it's worth a watch. I like VHS as a franchise. It's cool. It's not one of my favorite franchises, but I do enjoy the concept. It's definitely something that like it's cool. Not mind blowing, but it's a solid film. I wouldn't mind seeing them go to their 70s. I guess they went from 94, 99, 85. Um, I wouldn't mind seeing them going to the 70s or maybe even the 50s. Either one would be cool. So, I mean, this is a fun franchise that they can play around with a lot of decades now. So I'm on board. And just interested in seeing what's next. I would say VHS 1, 2, and 99 are the best. But yeah, it's definitely spooky season or Halloween is over, but it's always spooky season. So if you're looking for something, just cool to watch late night on a Friday night or, on a Saturday night, just, on a movie night, definitely something worth checking out. But as all horror anthologies, in my opinion, this isn't, it's hard to do. And I think that it has did some good things, but I think that this shows how difficult a horror anthology is to make. So thank you for listening. That's my spoiler review of VHS 85. Again, you can catch it on streaming. This is the Crazy Scary Cool podcast. I can't talk. Please like and subscribe. And yeah, thank you for listening. Have a good one.